You know, what's extraordinary about the opera is the sense of tension that's built up from the very beginning. As I said, Lina comes in, you see her really wishing to be able to tell Stiffelio, have her heart open to him. And of course she wants his forgiveness, not just as the minister, but also as the husband. And the extraordinary thing is that until the very last moment of the opera, we don't know what is going to happen.
You can discuss about the quality of Stiffelio to compare it to other Verdi works, and for sure, I think it's I'm not discovering anything saying that you cannot compare it, for instance, like an operas like Don Carlo or Simone Boccanegra or Othello, etc., but for sure it's Verdi. And with that, I'm saying everything. Verdi is it was a genial composer, and therefore whatever Verdi wrote is great and interesting. And I think that Stiffelio it's a kind of a score that has been not we didn't pay enough justice to that score, and we have now the opportunity to show it is like this.
Did you find it a difficult role? Because in some ways one doesn't entirely sympathize with your character, because he's being constrained by honor, by religion, by duty. He's not letting his heart out, is he? As, for example, Othello does.
Well, we have the battle, the internal battle that the man has, being a priest and being a human being and being a husband. And this is what makes the character interesting to play and to sing. But for sure, it's difficult to portray this character on this role on stage, because there are many different emotional and spiritual situations, and that's the reason that it's quite difficult. But of course, Verdi help us on that always.
You've made this remarkable, wonderful recovery from leukemia. Do you have to be rather careful? I mean, this is quite a taxing role, isn't it?
It is a very demanding role. It is, and it's something that you need to be physically in top shape, in top form. But thanks God, I am at the moment. I feel 100% okay, and that allows me to perform at the opera on stage.
You've probably learned how to pace yourself now.
Well, this is what I'm trying to do, but sometimes feeling so well as I feel again, you plan your things more with your heart than with your brains, and sometimes you maybe push a bit too much your schedule, but I try to do things in a wise way, and I think I succeed.
Are there any restrictions on what you can do?
No, for sure not. I'm fully recovered. I have green line. I have a green light to do whatever I feel like. So it's more an attitude, and it's more a kind of personal decision than any limitation.
This newly reconstituted Stiffelio has been warmly received, but it was a very different story when it was first performed in Trieste in 1850. Having already been mauled by the censors, the Italian and, of course, Catholic audience was somewhat nonplussed by this story of a married clergyman and its Protestant setting.
I believe that Verdi was a great feminist in his time. He was certainly a man who was very courageous in his private life, living with Giuseppina out of wedlock, and in a very small town, mind you, not in a big metropolis, was quite a dangerous thing to do. And I think he carried over, whereas Stiffelio is really a story about a man who has one stance for his public life and another stance for his private life. Verdi obviously didn't. His private life and his career life really were the same life, and what he believed in his private life he used in his works. And there are many female characters in his operas that are treated, I think, with great sensitivity, great compassion, and Lina is certainly one of them. She's a very extraordinary character. Difficult to play because she's looking for forgiveness from the very first moment you see her in the story, and very guilt-ridden, very conflicted about her emotions, obviously feeling something for this man that she's had this affair with, but it's not really an affair of the heart.
Verdi doesn't spell that out very clearly. She says that she was deceived, and nowadays we probably wouldn't use that language in this sense, would we?
No, she says she was raped, you know.
Raped, but I don't think she was raped. Was she doing the same?
No, I don't think she was raped. I think she was partially unwilling and partially willing, you know. Perhaps it was I don't like to think of it just as a sexual thing, as just that the body was willing and the heart wasn't. I believe there were circumstances which led her emotionally to this act, and primarily the fact that Stiffelio wasn't around for her. After all, he's a man who married her under a false name. Their relationship is already quite complex and difficult to understand. It's not based on a great deal of honesty. And I think that she feels that his life is about his public life more than his private life. And because of that, I think one can understand the emotional atmosphere that could lead a woman to searching out romance and tenderness from someone who's ready to offer it to her.
You see, in a sense, nowadays we're more concerned with what your heart tells you.
Oh, yes. I think Lina has some extraordinary moments to sing. And that's where he gets the sympathy for this character. Because, frankly, just from the story, I don't know that one would be sympathetic entirely. But that's perhaps, again, Verdi's feminist point of view is to get great sympathy and understanding for this compassion for this character. And he does it precisely through the music.
In principle, any man that has been betrayed by his wife has the sympathy of the audience, even if he's a baritone. Seriously speaking, is that you have to separate the priest, and you have to separate the decision of the priest and the decision of the human being. In my view, the man cannot forgive the wife, and he's asking her for a divorce, but the priest must forgive the adulterous wife, and that's exactly what he do. But this is, of course, what it brings him, this kind of internal fight during the whole procedure of the opera.
It's perhaps symptomatic of how opera is becoming successful that BBC Two has managed to sort of change all its schedules and put this out live on Saturday. Do you feel that there is a complete difference when you meet audiences in their attitude to opera, and that there is worldwide a much larger audience coming?
Well, I would say yes. I think that opera is becoming every day more and more popular to the general public. I think that television is one of the important reasons for that. And also because the cultural level of people, fortunately around the world, is growing, and therefore people is more and more interested in this kind of artistical and cultural events.
To what extent is it important to keep a sort of compromise, if you like, between very glamorous events like Three Tenors, all that sort of thing, and then also doing pieces like Stiffelio, which are not so well known, but which means that we actually discover something about a composer?
Well, I think this is the world of music, the world of classic music is fascinating, because you have many opportunities, you have different ways of presenting certain events or certain music to the audience. I mean, one thing is to do a kind of festivity concert like the one we did in Rome with Luciano and Placido. It was a has to be contemplated as a special event. Then you have another more rigorous, I would say, way of presenting our music to the audience, which is the occasion we have this evening, presenting a serious, very serious score by Giuseppe Verdi, done in a very professional and serious way in a major opera house in the world, with a wonderful conductor, with wonderful stage director, wonderful set designer, costume designer, I believe a very good cast. And this is a complete different way, and this is what makes our world so unique and so exciting.